plugging along for you over there in Piatt County. I've had Chief Bross and Sheriff Vogelzang on my show, and in recent weeks, they are very excited about that coming 708 Mental Health Board. I know maybe we'll get an update on that later in the program, and just a lot of exciting things happening at the Piatt County Mental Health Center right now. But I want to touch base with you, Tony, to get us started today. We were talking before we came on about a book you're reading, and it really coincided with a topic that I wanted to talk about today is, and I'll set this up with, for our listeners, I have been hearing from superintendents, whether it's on the show or when we get off the microphone or off the camera, about young people and for kids, we'll say pre-K to 2, they're coming to school not socially, not emotionally, where they probably should be for their age, and that's impacting their school performance. And then you're going to talk more specifically, and I'm hearing this a lot too, about anxiety and just the anxiousness of those kids that are probably grades 4, 5 on up to 12. What's your book, Tony? And where do you how has this impacted how you view things, where we're at in society?
Yeah, so Seth, I was talking to you about a book that I had read by, or currently reading by a social psychologist by the name of Jonathan Haidt. It's called The Anxious Generation. It was suggested to me actually by one of the clinicians here in the facility. And it was a book written last year that's looking at how specifically social media and the rise of technology directly correlates with the increase of depression and social anxiety that's being exhibited by our youth. And really, the author is targeting the ages between 9 and 15.
It's so funny you say that. Last night at the dinner table, we were having, the kids didn't have school yesterday, right? And so, a lot of time on devices. I mean, that's what we do when we're home now. And I, it's fine for us. It's fine for a lot of people. But we're sitting there, and my now, what is she, a fifth grader? She says, well, my friend X just got an iPhone, and soon friend, A, B, C, and D, they're going to get iPhones, and I'm going to be the only one in our group chat that doesn't have an iPhone. And, she's 11. And I'm like, yeah, really, Grace? Like, so, but they see where they're, and I had a conversation with a friend the other day. She was talking about how her kids, they don't let their kids have certain social media apps on their phones. And the kids are like, Mom, all my friends have this and this and this, and we don't get to. And she's like, I care about you. I don't care what such and such as parents do, so it's a peer pressure thing at the same time. Like the status quo is my friends are all here. I want to be there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the author, he's making a couple points, just kind of sum up 300 pages pretty fast, is parents should not allow their children to have cell phones, particularly smartphones, until at least the age of 13. Mm-hmm. That they should not allowed to be on social media until at least the age of 16, mm-hmm. Preferably 18. And that we should start doing a better job of regulating social media and internet access, because the author is saying this. They're saying that we seem to be going counterproductive. Like, we are, as parents and as a culture, putting all of these safeguards around our physical world. Uh-huh. So, we've done away with the monkey bars. We've done away with the merry-go-round. Everything has shredded rubber chips, and you can't go outside because you're going to get assaulted by everybody.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But we've allowed no restrictions on the virtual world.
Yeah.
And so the author is saying, which I thought was interesting, was there are all of these physical rites of passage showing that as a young person transitioning to adulthood, everything from a bat mitzvah to a quinceanera to driver's license to able to vote, all of this. Mm-hmm. But when a person logs on to the internet, as long as they click a box saying, I agree that I'm over 18, we're all the same age.
Right.
So they can gain access to the most perverse, sexualized information that somebody in their 60s, 70s plus has access to. Yeah. And so That's really the biggest driving part is limit our, the author is saying, limit our social media, increase more protections online, and interestingly enough, allow our kids to have more free play, to imagine, to make mistakes, to build social cues, all of that.
Well, and a couple of things I want to touch on there, Tony. For I shared the story just a minute ago about my kid. Everybody in the group chat of hers is going to have their iPhone, but her. And I in that moment I kind of sat back to myself and thought, you know what, as a parent, I feel like maybe I need to step back from my phone and my devices, because I like to come home at the end of the day and the kids are reading, or they're just kind of goofing around, and I'll just sit on the couch on my phone, or I'll sit on the sit at the desk and play PlayStation 5, and I got to thinking in that moment, I'm like, maybe I need to regulate how I am setting an example of what having this, the power of that device and these electronics looks like. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's something there as parents, we have to say, okay, if we expect our kids to not want to be on these things, or to say, hey, you know what, it doesn't matter that all your kids are there, all your friends are there, but if we're there all the time, what kind of example does that set? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. At this age that your children, my children are at, is we're more of kind of the player coach now. We're not just the authoritarian. We are modeling appropriate behavior, and so when we try to instruct our kids to do something that is actually counter to what we're behaving, it becomes problematic. So, I'm just as guilty. I'm on smart devices and whatnot. We've tried to implement a few rules that are in our household. So we have a parking lot for our cell phones. And when we come home and it's time to eat dinner, we park our phones, and nobody has access to those phones during the lunch or the dinner time. Kids they're not allowed to have phones in their rooms at night. I leave mine on just because of the nature of work. But one of the things I've been thinking through, Seth, that I need to probably do a better job of is I probably need to go through my cell phone and start turning off all my notifications. What a horrible model that I am setting for my kids if they're in the middle of a conversation and all of a sudden I get a ding. Oh, is that really more important than what my child is trying to communicate to me? Probably not. It's probably just telling me, LeBron James is sitting out of the All-Star game. So, yeah.
Somebody's not chapped about that. No, and you know what, Tony, this maybe is a sidebar to the conversation we're having, but I just feel like as parents, a lot of folks need to set a better example when they are online and when their kids can see their activity, because and this is more the school day and respecting authority related than it is, our emotional and social regulation. But, the lack of respect for authority, I feel like, is exemplified by parents that are, saying whatever they feel like and comes to their minds on social media. And when our kids are there and can see that behavior is given the thumbs up, if that makes sense.
No, I think it makes total sense. I think it's just a basic respect of humanity, which I violate repeatedly. Have you ever been in a boring business meeting and then you just decide to just pull out your phone and start scrolling while the person up front's talking? That's me. But then when I'm the person that's talking and I see that in the audience, then I'm frustrated because I'm like, I thought that, we're going to give each other attention. And so that honestly is something that I own in reading through this book and just kind of self-evaluating is I need to do my best, because as a therapist, whenever I go into therapy, I try to convey that my consumer is the most important person for the next 50 minutes. Because, Seth, we're so busy as a culture, nobody gets our attention. And how crazy is it that we have to actually pay money to go sit down to have somebody listen and walk through some stuff with us?
Yeah.
Because the world moves so fast.
Yeah. I want to, Tony, can you revisit, again, Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center on the Zoom call with us. You gave us that brief synopsis of this book you're reading. Can you give me the last kind of bullet point you had? There was something there that I wanted to feed off of, and I cannot remember what it was. Do you mind doing that real fast?
I think one of the bullet points is that they are encouraging parents and educators to create more play in younger people, because this is how young people learn about the world. This is how young people fail in a safe way, is we learn how to play with each other. We learn, and again, I'm not getting political, but we learn, gender identification, social roles, reciprocity, consequences. We learn that, if you jump on a slide in 90-degree weather and it's all metal, there's consequences for that. Like, there are a lot of things that play allows the brain to do, this neural plasticity. So we've lost our imagination. We've let Disney take care of all that for us instead of just creating a storyboard in our lives. And so that kind of playing to what you were saying earlier is, I'm wondering if that is why our kids are coming emotionally deregulated and socially immature, is because we've got them sitting in front of an iPad watching Coco Melon instead of going down the street and playing with the neighbor kid.
Maybe it was the bullet point before that. What was your point before that? Forgive me, Tony. I got so deep into the other stuff.
It's cell phones. It's you got to ban cell phones at a certain age. You've got to watch your social media. Social media is extremely dangerous. I don't know. I forgot probably the other point.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Maybe I'll remember it in the break, and we can come back to it. And a lot of times these things are easier said than done, right? Because kids want, like I said, it's a peer pressure. They want to be there. Their friends are there. But at the same time, kids are so good with technology, Tony. Like, it's amazing how they can get around the monitors or the whatever it is in the backgrounds that parents can see and all those things. Gosh, they're so good at those things because they want their privacy. They want that kind of autonomy to be able to do what they want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. There's there's ways that kids obviously Instagram just asks you, are you 13 or older? And all you got to do is say yes or no. There's no verification for that. I found that there are photo libraries that kids can get that duplicate as a calculator. That's why it's extremely important to I tell my kids, when I hand them their cell phone, this is mine. You don't pay for it. It's my contract, and I am allowing you to use my phone, and I have access to my phone anytime I ask of it. So we have the monitoring stuff, and I look at it irregularly, but I also think there's, Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify, and that's kind of how I behave. Is like, I'm going to give you some trust, but I will check occasionally to hold you accountable that you're going to use this tool in a very responsible way.
Well, Tony, on that note, I tell you what, let's break here and come back with some more. Maybe get an update on the 708 board and the progress they're making in Piatt County. How do folks learn more about all things Piatt County Mental Health Center?
Yeah, check us out online, piattmhc.org. Give me a call, 217-762-5371, or check us out on Facebook.
Again, Tony Kirkman is the Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, our guest on the Zoom today. More to come with Tony on the morning show. WHOW.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. No trading on this President's Day. Corn, beans, and wheat all finishing higher. Ladders $4.96 1/4. May corn up 2 3/4, $5.08 3/4. New crop December $4.75 1/4, up half a penny. March beans closing 10.36, up 6. May beans up 5 3/4, 10.52 3/4. New crop November 10.52, up 6 3/4. March Chicago wheat $6 even, up 22 1/4. May wheat up 21 1/2, 6.13 1/2. March bean meal up $3.20, $2.95.90. March bean oil 46.07, down 18 cents. Closing numbers in the livestock market from Friday. March feeders 266.35, down $1.62. April live cattle down 227, 194.25. February lean hogs 89.47, up a dime. Trading resumes on Tuesday. You're listening to the RFD Radio Network.
It's time to celebrate winter. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. Yes, we have extra savings on all new Chevrolets this month to celebrate the winter season. See our inventory of Chevrolet Trailblazers, Blazers, and the all-new Chevy Trax. We also have a larger, redesigned 7-passenger Traverse and a good selection of 24 and 25 Tahoes. See our winter celebration savings at BaumChevyBuick.com. Right from the start.
If the flu's got you down, the Warner Hospital and Health Services Walk-In Clinic inside Family Medicine can help you feel better fast. CEO Paul Skowron inviting you to make us your backup plan to better health. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Tony Kirkman, again, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, our guest on the Zoom call today. And Tony's 708 board continues to move along. First of all, remind us, what the 708 board is. Maybe folks in Piatt County listening and new to the concept. What is it, and what do they do?
Yeah, so a 708 Mental Health Board is formed by a referendum that is passed. And so what I want to say is a huge thank you to the 60% of all Piatt County residents that voted to approve this referendum back in November. Seth, you probably heard of a lot of referendums that were going throughout the state of Illinois, and to come to the voters and ask for a tax levy during this time it's a difficult request, but I'm so thankful that our residents saw the need for sustaining mental health services and developmental services and voted to approve it. And so quickly, it's a tax levy on assessed property value that helps sustain developmental services, mental health services, and substance use services. But they cover things that they're considered a payer of last resort. So they don't cover things that the state's already taken care of, or stuff that like private insurance or private pay is. This is sustaining support services for those that desperately need it.
All right, so where do we stand, Tony, in terms of the development of this board? Have you figured out board members and all of that? Where are things at?
Yeah. So the Illinois Community Mental Health Act, as soon as a referendum is passed, you've got to start moving pretty quickly. So where we're at right now is the county board has voted on a levy that was not to exceed 0.15%. And so for our initial year, the county has assessed a 0.10 levy, not trying to claim the whole amount, which I think is very fiscally responsible. We have presented and we have had our board members approved. We have an 8-member board, and now the board members are going through roles and responsibilities, procedural obligations, and they're also now starting to look at community needs and some of the community resources that exist, so that we make sure that we're not duplicating services, but we are collaborating with them and hopefully plugging in some holes that have yet to be identified.
Well, Tony, when do the funds start to kind of flow in for this? What's the estimated revenue, and what do you do with it all?
Yeah, so the first property tax, I believe, is being collected in June.
Okay.
Hopefully would be available for distribution in July or August of this year, and then another distribution would be available towards the very end of the calendar year. So the assessed or the estimated value from this is $626,000. which sounds like a lot of money, which it is. But for example, agencies like myself that have to be accredited by a national institution just to be able to take government contracts, that's a $10,000 cost, let alone a $1,000 cost for electronic health records. We've got a lot of operating expenses that sadly your government contracts do not take in effect. And so, and we also have to accept individuals regardless of their ability to pay. So we've got all these unfunded mandates and all of this responsibility. So we kind of get it on both ends. That's why 708 funding is, it is absolutely essential to keep agencies like the Mental Health Center afloat.
Is it one of those things where every year all the money collected has to go somewhere? It has to be distributed, or can the 708 board like sit back on some funding for a future project, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I believe that they can have a contingency fund. In fact, that's what I have recommended to our 708 board, is that with it being your initial year, it makes fiscal sense to set back a portion of revenue because you have no idea what an emerging mental health need may arise. We had no idea in December of 2019 what was the fund that was awaiting us in March of 2020 when COVID shut the entire world down and anxiety and substance use increased by 30% across the board. So it allows the mental health board an opportunity to sit back and address needs as they see, as well as sustaining services that have proven themselves worthy of support.
About a minute here, Tony. Did I miss anything on the 708 board?
I would just say that you should, the residents of Piatt County should know that those individuals that consist of the mental health board are people with lived experience of either working for institutions similar to this, being in the mental health field, or have prior board experience serving on social service organizations. So these are people that are invested into your community, that talk to you at the local county market, that see your need and want to make sure that they are protecting the local dollars. So I'm just very thankful to them and to the residents of Piatt County for allowing this to happen.
Tony, good stuff, man. Appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, Seth. Hope you have a great day.
Tony Kirkman, Executive Director of the Piatt County Mental Health Center, our guest. Network News on the way.
WHOW.